Welcome back from the commercial break. I believe it's a good weekend, and tell someone who is not following us, our discussion, to join us. We are still moving on, discussing on how sustainable development goals will be implemented successfully in Uganda's economy. And together with us, we have a technical advisor who is the head of SDG under the office of the Prime Minister's office. He gives us somewhere hope, and also he points out, as we've been going through the discussion, where maybe we've not yet done it best, he cannot be crucified for any of such, but yet I always call upon him to give us promise, maybe things will be better. Prof, I believe I'm right. Having said that, before we went for the commercial break, Madam Awol Ruth had tackled some areas or intending to promote equitable access to opportunities, especially for the gender, and empowering women and girls. But at times I ask myself how long this empowerment will continue. And we know that it is part of a policy. Politically, I ask myself a question which also my colleagues will be able to answer. Always, you have been empowered for the last 35 years under the NRM government. You are empowered via education, you are empowered politically, and somehow, somewhere, it is affecting the country, control of public expenditure, especially in political posts, where we talk about a female, the woman representative, and again they say a female can still compete with me, and at times you defeated us. I was in the East Africa Legislative Assembly election. 2 ladies defeated us in the independent side, and they were able to come out. So now, this empowerment, don't you think it should have a limit?
No, it shouldn't.
You can answer in 1 minute and then we'll come.
All right, so when you ask me whether empowerment should have a limit, and it has been done for the past 35 years, we've never stopped producing. Every day, a new generation of adults and girls and young women is coming up, and they need this support. We are lucky that we have been in the government where we have been empowered as young women, and I will not agree with you where you say that it has costed the government in regards to finances. Time and again, our male counterparts have been, by even the mere virtue that they are men, enjoyed different rights. We were having a discussion with one of my colleagues yesterday, and we were saying that as I'm struggling to go through school, as I'm struggling to have 5 days of school, my school every month to attend to my periods, maybe 9 months after I have to have the maternity leave and all that, my male counterpart is still growing. So at the end of the day, when I have a chance to participate in these spaces, it shouldn't be looked at as a burden to the country. It actually should be looked at as an opportunity to support me as well, reach a level where my male counterpart is. We see to it that where we have achieved gender equality and where it has been working very well, we have seen progress. Look at the situation that we are having in the current parliament, where we have representation of women at different levels. At least we are sure that representation of issues of women and girls will be given a priority. But again, we are not refuting the fact that men also need to be represented. And now that's where the equal competition comes in. What we are looking at is having women compete on the same ground as men, but where need arises, we need equity. If I'm not in position to be at the same level as you are, can I get extra support to get to the level where you are?
Let me come to you. Equity, I could refer to it because there is an injustice which I want to condemn. Not that I'm becoming a discussant. It should have supposed to be 50-50. 50% in your favor for female, 50% in the favor for male. Because what is happening on the ways we are trying to achieve the sustainable development goals, there is something that's happening, Prof, and you kind of take note of this. The male child, there is a tendency of thinking that they don't need any attention. Even the public, as we look for those who are to be supported for school fees, they have ended up now, others going for border riding, others going for street children. And because the attention of the male child, as you were talking about the young generation, is seeming to be declining terribly with no one caring. And that's why I come to you, Prof, don't you think there's a gap that needs to be addressed in terms of the understanding of the achieving gender equality and empower all women. That's one. Two, after 35 years, we are supposed to have had a target. Why don't we streamline our institution? Now, if I talk of parliament and elsewhere, if we say we have a district, we have a woman representative and suit another post, it's circled for the male representative, even two. I'm bringing this concurrently and coherently to be able to look at how we can build strong institutions that are overlean government, not create opportunity, male, female, then again you enlarge it, here when the female and male, and we do be able to do a 50% formula. I would like to hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and dear listeners, we should first of all thank this government for having put relevant institutions and laws to make sure that there is gender equality. Where did we come from, and where are we now? Now, talking about now, you will notice that, as she has indicated, that around 47, or actually 37% of the cabinet ministers are women, of whom the vice president, the prime minister, the speaker are women. And when you look at other key ministries like education, like energy, you see, they are led by women. So I think, wait a bit, an imbalance, but you see they started when they were low, but now they are coming towards the 50. But we should go back to the other question of equal opportunities, where you are saying, why is it that women were given all these opportunities, but still there are still problems at the lower level? What are women doing in all these 35 years where they have been given that power? That's what we should be looking at. But otherwise, I think government intention was to make sure there is equality, and it is coming up to that one there. So it's a matter of empowering these women to make sure that they support even
what about
the
empowerment of the male child? Because
that's where now we shall come, before he comes in.
Yes, sir.
The empowerment of the male child, I think, is what we have to look at, because results have shown that in the primary there are more girls now than boys, which was not the case before UPE. But when UPE was introduced, parents took advantage to send their children, their girls to school. So now it may have to be looked at, and then we balance that one up.
Okay, I could, if I come
yes. I appreciate the concerns that are being raised on this table, but we need to begin from the intent. What was the intent of affirmative action? The intent was to uplift the underprivileged gender, and that uplifting was not meant to disadvantage the boys or disadvantage the men, but rather to provide equal opportunity, to provide equal platforms for both boys and girls. And we have seen this work out very well in enrollment, improving the enrollment rates in primary schools and so on and so forth. And I want to believe that for any policy that is implemented, it is supposed to be evaluated from time to time to see has this policy actually achieved its intended objectives and goals. And if there are concerns at this point in time, I think it would be appropriate to say that we need to start considering evaluation of the affirmative action policy and see how far has it gone. Could there have been any pitfalls in the implementation of this policy? Could there have been any challenges? And if at all we see any unintended consequences, then we could be able to go back to the drawing board and say, how then do we address this? But that does not mean that affirmative action for women is not necessary. I still believe that it is important. We just need to see where, for instance, we have had challenges in the implementation of this policy, and we could be able to fix some of those gaps that exist in the implementation.
Okay, as you were, responding to that, remember there is something which is pertinent relating to the giveaway of some of the gazetted areas that are supposed for environmentally conserved areas in the city and in other urban areas, and those which are not directly known to us. But this is open information. And I will not crucify our representative from the Office of the Prime Minister, but conserving, we are talking about, this is goal 11, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. And they cannot be when we are not taking care of conserving the environment and also allowing some rightful urban agricultural practices. To accord that has made research, Mr. Mba was the Jonas Musinga. Yes, Musinga rather. There have been a controversy of giveaway of some of the wetlands to some investors in this city, in this Kampala metropolitan, and some other urban developing cities. Of course, not forgetting even in municipalities. And those whom they say the big Muganda Chebaita Banene, and they hear that they are either the owners of those projects or they have given away for an investor. What is the roadblock to achieve what we get to achieve to conserve good environment for our cities and make our human settlement inclusive indeed?
Thank you. Under the SDGs, the implementation of SDGs, particularly Goal 11, Uganda committed to developing sustainable and livable cities, and these are supposed to be green cities. But Uganda, just like any other country, is being overwhelmed by capitalistic interests, just like any other country. Interests that consider mainly capitalistic agenda or individualistic agenda, if I may say, that does not consider sustainable living and also concern for others. And because of this, we see destruction of very important ecosystems, like I said earlier on, where, for instance, some wetlands have been taken over by human settlement. Some wetlands have also been, we've seen buildings being erected in very fragile ecosystems. One of them is Centenary Park down here. We've seen a number of even rivers being taken over in some cities like Mbarara. We see destruction of the riverbank. We see sand mining in the river. We see a number of things. And this, for instance, Mbarara City, the River Rees happens to be a lifeline of Mbarara City. The factories like Coca-Cola, GBK rely on that river to be able to draw water and help in the processing of the different products in those factories. But the destruction that happens in some of those ecosystems is really worrying. And if as a country we are to make progress in as far as the achievement of Goal 16, having sustainable, livable cities, then we need to be able to ensure that those ecosystems are protected. And that can only happen if we are very conscious and intentional about having green cities, if we are intentional about controlling where the urban population lives. We see, for instance, a mushrooming of so many slum areas in different places, and where the people that live on the margins of life in these cities are, they'll evade any place, whether it's a wetland, whether it's a hilltop, whether it is a forest, they will evade it. And we need to be able to control these settlements and be able to provide a livelihood where these people could be able to have a better life. And then also we need to see that there is water for everyone in this city, or in the cities that are mushrooming. And recently government approved creation of 10 more regional cities, and 5 more are coming. So we need to be intentional to make sure that these cities are physically well planned, And we have an act, a physical planning act, that stipulates how some of these cities are supposed to be planned, how settlements are supposed to be planned, how green parks are supposed to be created. And we need to make sure that we can be able to have a strict adherence and enforcement of this law to ensure that we can be able to create green, sustainable and livable cities that pay attention to the protection of very important and fragile ecosystems.
Have you tried to raise more red flag? Because I was impressed when you showed the areas where you've raised up, red flag against these, unjust practices to our environment. And the good thing, you're able to identify more, and at a national, in a national perspective. What is your strategy to do raise more advocacy? Red flag, because
yes.
the way you were doing it.
Yes, I want to say that Accord as an institution and other partners, we have had a number of interventions on not only greening the cities but also greening the economy. We happen to host a Green Economy Coalition network for the East Africa. The hub is hosted at Accord. We happen also to be members of the Global Coalition on the Green Economy. And arising from that, we have had intentions along river systems in this country, particularly focusing on River Rizi. We have been trying to implement a number of activities in the restoration of the River Rizi catchment area to make sure that we provide alternative livelihoods for the people that are dependent on that river, to make sure that we could be able to restore the integrity of the river catchment area through planting trees and restoration of the entire river system in 13 districts that are covered by that river. And in doing that, we are engaging different government structures, the districts that I talked about, 13 of them, the city as well. We are engaging with the city. NEMA has been part of that process. And we have also helped work with government to develop a restoration plan for River Rizi catchment area. Okay. Yeah.
I appreciate you and our encouragement on behalf of the viewers who are following us at tweet at Smart24 TV and also at Dr. Tinyeva. We continue to advocate and aspire for the best. And to our dear the representative from Accord, Mr. Mbawaz Jonas, we continue to appeal to you that it is indeed important to expand your network and also be firm where behind you, because you are researchers, you are not political, and even some other channels available petitioning the speaker or ensuring that you engage government and the citizen to reach a time they say, no, this one is dangerous. Coming back, thank you so much. Coming back to Professor, it is very vivid and open information, as we were able to have access to the clip of where the president represented us as the head of state and the former prime minister. The effect of not taking heed of these SDGs, especially in a matter of making cities and human settlement inclusive, conserving the environment, is pertinent. You ever seen a clip of how floods invade some well-developed cities? Look at it, especially in the Eastern Europe, and when you look at it, you say, what's this? But remember, at a certain point, there was negligence, there was carelessness, and all of a sudden, as you see, like Kampala, hit by flood, every building rolling away, and also, cars. Before that happened, for a future generation, why is it that the government assertiveness to term this kind of actions that we will be able to, keep us safe cities in the future is not being done? Any technical advice given? Any action being taken so far?
Any action taken, I think you are very right, because it happened in Uganda 2 months ago, in the Bududa, where the forests were swept away and the whole valley was flooded with water. We lost lives. And so, of course, so they are concerted efforts, and the policies have been put in place to make sure that they plant trees, they evacuate the people who are living in the mountains, which are not safe, And then the other one, for the case of the cities, government has created, actually has expanded the number of cities. We had Kampala city, but now we have 13 cities. So there are efforts to make sure that they build these cities and then make sure they plant trees, the cities, but still it is a bit low.
Chip in a bit. He mentioned on well-planned cities. And I want to be critical on this. We've had the creation of districts, creation of municipalities and cities. The element of well-planned urban cities seems to be lacking. They declare a city, you find that the following day or the following month that they are saying that we don't have funds to fund the cities. A city is mentioned by name, but in terms of the physical planning and the funding, it's not there. And for a critical analysis, maybe we still have time to achieve it. Don't you think there is something lacking, or what should be done in order to realize it?
I think there is goodwill. There has been a goodwill of creating cities, and of course we know what good cities should look like, and the ministry concerned should be taking charge and make sure that good plans are developed for these cities which have been developed. And then funds. The plans are there, they have been developed, but they should be followed. And once the economy grows, then they should be able to work on those cities. Otherwise, they can't say that, yes, what are we doing not to do that? There have been a good will to create the cities. There is a ministry responsible. They have developed good plans on paper, they are there. What remains now is implementation.
I've identified the
and then availing funds to those ones.
Okay, I've identified the gap, but our technical advisor is saying to you, dear viewers, not to me, that is a goodwill. So that's the hope he has given us.
Goodwill, and then we have to implement.
Yes, definitely there has been goodwill to promote the urbanization agenda in this country. The challenge, however, has been our level of preparedness to have the cities. For instance, when the first 10 cities were created, the challenge was the level of preparedness of the municipalities that had been elevated to city status or that metamorphosed to city status was wanting. The communities living in these cities at that time had not been adequately prepared to elevate themselves and the expectations to the city status. And also government, on the other hand, was also not adequately prepared to avail the necessary resources for these cities. And consequently, we saw government going in high gear after the creation of these cities to create structures for these cities, administrative structures for these cities, because at that time there was no existing structure, staff structure for the cities. They were operating using a budget at that time that was for the municipalities, the parent municipalities that created them. And now we see some limitations in terms of implementation. Like he has said, yes, the goodwill is there. Now we need to see the implementation taking place. But the level of preparedness now has been the challenge. In the next phase of the cities that are going to be created, government is committing that they need to, first of all, ensure that the places that will have those cities are adequately prepared and to ensure that they can be able to have
and the funding capacity.
Exactly.
Coming back to you, Prof, I posed a question on the need for a legal framework to achieve this goal number 11, make cities and human settlement inclusive. There is the Kampala City Council Authority Act. And these newly created cities are still operating under the guidance of the Local Government Act. And to me, as a public policy analyst and expert, it seems to still be contradictory and unrealistic to believe that Kampala at a certain moment, which is supposed to be equal to Lila, the other one operating under Local Government Act, the other one operating under Kampala City Council Act. To you, in your analysis, much as it might not be having a streamlined way, what could you propose?
What I propose is to revise the law, and I think it is being done. It's among the laws which are being revised by the Parliamentary Council.
Okay.
As you rightly put it, previously the Act was talking of the towns, not the cities, we had one city, but now we have expanded to about 13 cities. So the operations are completely different.
Okay.
So it's being revised.
There's a need to revise the law.
It's need to, but it's being actually, it's in the pipeline.
Okay, that's good. Let's go for the commercial break. We'll be dealing with the last segment of our discussion. Please stay tuned, and all of us will be concentrating on goal number 8, promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, and also take consideration to have a resilient, build a resilient infrastructure that promote inclusive and sustained industrialization and innovation. That will be part of our last elements of discussion as we give in proposed recommendation to realize the achievement or the implementation of SDGs. Stay tuned. See you after this commercial break.